The River God's Bride, a gentle bedtime story, inspired by an ancient Chinese tale. Long, long ago, in a quiet village beside a wide and winding river, there lived many families who worked hard from sunrise to sunset. The village was small, but the land around it was beautiful. In spring, green shoots covered the fields like soft blankets. In summer, lotus flowers opened on the ponds. In autumn, golden rice waved gently in the wind. And in winter, mist floated over the river like a pale silk scarf. The river was the heart of the village. It gave water to the fields. It gave fish to the fishermen. It carried boats from one town to another. In the morning, women washed clothes by its banks. In the evening, children played near the reeds while their parents called them home. But although the river gave life, the villagers also feared it. Sometimes after heavy rain, the river grew angry. Its peaceful surface turned dark and wild. The water rose higher and higher, swallowing the banks and flooding the fields. Once in a while, it even carried away small houses made of mud and straw. Because of this, the villagers believed there was a powerful spirit living inside the river. They called him the river god. For many years, the elders told the children, "Be respectful near the river. Never shout at it. Never throw stones into it. The river god is watching." The children listened with wide eyes. Some believed the river god had long blue hair like flowing water. Some imagined he had golden eyes that shone beneath the waves. Others thought he lived in a palace made of pearls and shells at the bottom of the river. No one had ever seen him, but everyone had heard stories, and among all the stories, one was the most frightening. It was said that every few years, the river god wanted a bride. When the river flooded badly, the village fortune teller would stand by the water, close her eyes, shake her wooden beads, and speak in a deep voice. "The river god is lonely," she would say. "He is searching for a bride. If we do not give him one, the river will rise and destroy us all." The villagers were terrified. They did not know what else to do. They were poor people with little education. They feared the flood. They feared hunger, and most of all, they feared angering a god they could not see. So each time the fortune teller made this announcement, the village leaders would choose a young girl from one of the poorest families. They would dress her in red wedding clothes, place flowers in her hair, and send her away on a small wooden boat. The people called it a wedding. But in every mother's heart, it was a goodbye. The girl would be placed in the boat at sunset. Drums would sound slowly. Incense would burn. The fortune teller would chant strange words while the villagers bowed their heads. Then the boat would be pushed into the river. The current would carry it farther and farther away until the red wedding clothes disappeared into the mist. After that, the village would grow silent. No one spoke loudly that night. No children played by the river. Mothers held their daughters close. Fathers stared at the ground, and the river flowed on as if nothing had happened. Years passed. The village continued to live in fear. Then one year a new magistrate arrived. His name was Shimen Bao. He was a calm and thoughtful man. He did not speak too much, but when he listened carefully. His eyes were sharp, but kind. He had traveled through many towns and had seen many kinds of people: honest farmers, greedy officials, frightened villagers, and clever liars. When Shimen Bao first came to the village, he noticed something strange. The land was rich, and the river could provide plenty of water, but many fields were dry. The people looked tired and hopeless. Some houses were empty. Families with daughters seemed especially anxious. One evening, Shimen Bao walked through the village in simple clothes. He did not bring guards. He did not announce his title. He only wanted to listen. Near an old willow tree, he saw an elderly man sitting alone. The man's hair was white and his hands were rough from many years of farming. He looked at the river with sorrowful eyes. Shimen Bao walked over and said gently, "Grandfather, may I sit beside you?" The old man nodded. For a while, they sat quietly together. The river moved slowly under the fading light. Birds flew home across the orange sky. Then Shimen Bao asked, "This village has good soil and a wide river. Why do the people here look so sad?" The old man sighed. "Sir, you must be new here," he said. "You do not know our suffering." "Tell me," said Shimen Bao. The old man looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then he lowered his voice. It is because of the river god, he said. Every few years he demands a bride. If we do not send one, the flood will come. Hemenbao remained quiet. The old man continued. The fortune teller says she can hear the river god's wishes. The village leaders believe her. They collect money from every family for the wedding ceremony. They say it is for offerings, music, incense, and the bride's clothes, but the poorest families suffer the most. His voice trembled. My own granddaughter was taken 3 years ago. Jimenbao looked at him with deep sympathy. I am sorry, he said softly. The old man wiped his eyes. She was only 16, he whispered. She loved to sing while carrying water. After she was sent away, my daughter never smiled again. The two men sat in silence. The river reflected the first stars of the night. After a while, Hemenbao asked, Has anyone ever seen this river god? The old man shook his head. No. Has anyone ever seen one of the brides return? No. Has anyone asked why the river god only chooses girls from poor families? The old man looked surprised. He had never dared to ask that question. Jimenbao stood up slowly. Thank you for telling me, he said. The next morning, Hemenbao called the village leaders to meet him. They came quickly, bowing low. The fortune teller came too. She was an old woman with sharp eyes and a proud face. Around her neck hung strings of beads. In her hands she carried a wooden stick carved with strange symbols. Behind her stood several assistants. The village leaders looked nervous. They had heard that the new magistrate was intelligent and strict. Jimenbao sat calmly in the hall. I have heard, he said, that the river god will soon take another bride. The fortune teller stepped forward. Yes, my lord, she said. The river god has spoken to me in a dream. He is lonely again. If we do not prepare a bride for him, the river will flood and bring disaster. Hemenbao nodded slowly. I see. And who has been chosen? The village leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, one of them said, A girl from the Li family, my lord. Her father is a poor farmer. She is young and beautiful, so the river god will surely be pleased. Hemenbao asked, Did the river god say her name? The fortune teller raised her chin. The river god speaks through signs, she replied. Only I can understand them. Of course, said Hemenbao calmly. And when is the wedding? 3 days from now at sunset, said the fortune teller. Very well, said Hemenbao. I will attend the ceremony myself. Everyone froze. The fortune teller's eyes flickered. You will attend, my lord? Yes, said Hemenbao. A wedding for the river god is an important matter. As magistrate, I should show respect. The village leaders forced themselves to smile. Of course, my lord, of course. But the fortune teller did not smile. That night, whispers spread through the village. The new magistrate is coming to the river god's wedding. Will he stop it? Will he anger the river god? Will the river flood? The Li family, whose daughter had been chosen, could not sleep. The girl's name was Lian. She was gentle and quiet, with bright eyes and a kind heart. She helped her mother cook, helped her father in the fields, and often shared food with younger children. When she heard she had been chosen as the river god's bride, her face turned pale. Her mother held her and cried. Her father went to the village leaders and begged on his knees. Please, he said, take our land, take our house, take anything, but do not take my daughter. But the leaders pushed him away. This is the river god's will, they said. Do you want the whole village to drown because of your selfishness? The poor father returned home with dust on his knees and tears in his eyes. But when Lian heard that the new magistrate would attend, a tiny light of hope appeared in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, someone powerful had finally heard their pain. On the third day, the whole village gathered by the river. The sun was low in the sky. The water shone red and gold. A small wooden boat waited near the bank. It had been decorated with ribbons and flowers. Lian stood beside it, dressed in red wedding clothes. But this was not a joyful wedding. Her hands were cold. Her mother stood behind her, trembling. Her father looked as if his heart had already broken. The fortune teller began the ceremony. She waved her wooden stick and chanted loudly, O mighty river god, Ruler of the deep waters, we bring you a bride. Please accept her and protect our village. Drums sounded. The villagers bowed. Then Heman Bao arrived. He wore his official robe, but his face was calm and unreadable. Guards followed him, but they stood quietly at a distance. The village leaders hurried to greet him. "My lord, the ceremony is ready." Heman Bao looked at Lian, then at the boat, then at the fortune teller. He said, "Before we send the bride, I must see her face." The fortune teller hesitated. "My lord, the river god is waiting." "A bride should be properly presented," said Heman Bao. The villagers parted. Lian stepped forward slowly. Heman Bao looked at her kindly. Then he turned to the fortune teller and shook his head. "This girl is not suitable," he said. A murmur rose from the crowd. The fortune teller stared at him. "Not suitable?" "No," said Heman Bao. "The river god is a powerful being. Surely he deserves the most beautiful bride. This girl is frightened, pale, and too young. The river god may not be pleased." The fortune teller did not know what to say. Heman Bao continued, "Since you speak with the river god, you must go to him first. Tell him that this bride is not good enough. Ask him to wait while we search for a better one." The fortune teller's face changed. "My lord," she said quickly, "I cannot go into the river. I am only his messenger in this world." "But you said he speaks to you," said Heman Bao. "Then he knows you well. He will welcome you." The fortune teller stepped back. "My lord, this is not the proper custom." Heman Bao's voice remained calm. "If the river god is waiting, we should not delay." He turned to his guards. "Help the fortune teller deliver my message." Before the old woman could run, the guards took her by the arms. The villagers gasped. The fortune teller screamed, "No, no, the river god will be angry." Heman Bao said, "Then you can explain everything to him yourself." The guards carried her to the river and threw her into the water. Splash. The river closed over her. The crowd stood frozen. No thunder came. No giant wave rose. No voice roared from beneath the water. Only ripples spread across the surface. Heman Bao waited calmly. After a while, he frowned. "The fortune teller is taking too long," he said. "Perhaps she is having trouble finding the river god's palace." He turned to the fortune teller's first assistant. "You, go help her." The assistant fell to his knees. "My lord, please spare me. I know nothing." Heman Bao looked at him. "Nothing? But you helped with the ceremonies for many years." The assistant shook with fear. "We lied," he cried. "There is no message from the river god. We only said those things to collect money. Please have mercy." The villagers gasped again. Heman Bao said nothing for a moment, then he asked, "Who else helped?" The assistant pointed to the other helpers and several village leaders. One by one, they fell to their knees. "My lord, forgive us. We were greedy. We only wanted money. We did not think of the girls." At this, many villagers began to cry. Mothers covered their faces. Fathers clenched their fists. The old man by the willow tree stood in the crowd, staring at the river with tears running down his cheeks. Heman Bao raised his hand, and the crowd became quiet. "For many years," he said, "you have lived in fear. You believed the river demanded your daughters. But rivers do not need brides. Floods come because water is not controlled. Fields suffer because canals are not repaired. People suffer when lies are allowed to rule over truth." He turned to the dishonest leaders. "You used fear to take money from the poor. You sent innocent girls to their deaths. This was not the will of a god. This was human cruelty." The leaders bowed their heads in shame. Heman Bao ordered his guards to arrest them. Then he walked to Lian and her parents. "The wedding is over," he said gently. "Your daughter is safe." Lian's mother collapsed to the ground, crying with relief. Her father bowed again and again. Lian looked at Heman Bao with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, my lord," she whispered. Heman Bao shook his head. Do not thank me," he said. "Live well. That will be enough." That evening, for the first time in many years, the village did not fear the river. The sun set quietly. The wind moved through the reeds. The river flowed calm and silver under the moon. But Himenbao's work was not finished. The next day he gathered the villagers. "Fear has taken too much from this place," he said. "Now we will use knowledge and labor to protect the village." He ordered the people to repair old canals, strengthen the riverbanks, and dig new waterways to guide the floodwater safely into the fields. At first, some villagers were uncertain. They had spent so many years believing that only offerings could calm the river. The idea that human hands could change their fate felt strange. But Himenbao did not simply give orders. He worked with them. He walked along the riverbanks, measuring the land. He spoke with farmers about where water gathered after rain. He listened to fishermen who knew the current. He asked old women where the flood had reached in past years. Slowly, the villagers began to understand. The river was not an angry god searching for brides. The river was water, powerful, yes, dangerous sometimes, but also useful, generous, and life-giving when respected and understood. Men carried stones to strengthen the banks. Women prepared food for the workers. Young people cleared mud from the canals. Even children helped by carrying small baskets of earth. Lian came too. She no longer wore red wedding clothes. She wore simple blue cotton and tied her hair back with a ribbon. She brought tea to the workers and helped her mother cook rice porridge for everyone. Sometimes when she looked at the river, her heart still trembled. But day by day the fear grew smaller. One morning, she stood beside the old willow tree where Himenbao had first spoken with the elderly man. The old man was there again, watching the workers. "Grandfather," Lian said softly, "do you think the river remembers?" The old man looked at the water. "Perhaps rivers remember everything," he said. "But perhaps they also carry sorrow away." Lian thought about this. The water moved forward, always forward. It did not stop. It did not turn back. Months passed. The canals were finished before the heavy rains came. When the first great storm arrived, the villagers stayed awake all night. Rain beat against the roofs. Wind shook the trees. The river rose, dark and strong. Many people were afraid, but this time no one spoke of a bride. No drums sounded. No girl was dressed in red. Instead, the villagers lit lanterns and watched the new canals. Water rushed into them, flowing away from the homes and into the fields where it could be used. By morning, the rain stopped. The village still stood. The houses were safe. The fields were wet but not destroyed. The people came out slowly, looking around in wonder. Then someone laughed. Another person cheered. Soon the whole village was filled with joyful voices. "The canals worked. The river did not flood us. We are safe." The old fear had finally broken. From that year on, the village changed. The people no longer gave brides to the river god. They no longer gave money to fortune tellers who used fear to control them. Instead, they saved their money to repair roads, build stronger homes, and educate their children. Parents told their daughters, "You are not born to be sacrificed. You are born to live." Parents told their sons, "Strength is not in frightening others. Strength is in protecting them." And every year when the river rose during the rainy season, the villagers worked together. They cleaned the canals. They checked the banks. They prepared calmly, not with panic, but with wisdom. As for Lian, she grew into a brave and thoughtful young woman. She often sat by the river at sunset, listening to the water. At first the sound reminded her of fear, but later it became peaceful. She began to hear something else in it, not a god demanding sorrow, but the quiet voice of life moving onward. Years later, when children gathered around her and asked about the old days, she told them the story. "Was there really a river god?" the children asked. Lian smiled. "I do not know," she said gently. "Perhaps every river has a spirit. Perhaps every mountain, tree, and star has a spirit too. But I do know this. A true spirit would not ask parents to give up their children. A true spirit would not grow strong from fear." The children listened carefully. "Then what should we do when we are afraid?" one little girl asked. Lian looked at the river, shining softly beneath the evening sky. "When we are afraid," she said, "we should not close our eyes. We should open them. We should ask questions. We should look for the truth. And we should protect one another." The children nodded, though some were too young to fully understand. But they remembered the feeling of her words, warm, safe, clear, like a lantern in the dark. Many years passed, and Shimenbao eventually left the village to serve in other places. But his wisdom remained. People spoke of him with respect, not because he shouted the loudest or wore the finest robes, but because he had seen through fear and brought courage back to the people. The river continued to flow. In spring it reflected pink blossoms. In summer it carried the songs of frogs. In autumn it shone beneath the harvest moon. In winter, mist rested above it like a dream. The village children still played near the banks, but now their parents watched with calm hearts. The river was still powerful, and everyone respected it. But respect was no longer the same as fear. And on quiet nights, when the moon was full and the water glowed silver, the older villagers sometimes remembered the girls who had been lost. They would light small lanterns and place them gently on the river. The lanterns floated away, one by one, carrying prayers, love, and remembrance. No drums, no fear, only peace. The people would stand together, watching the lights drift into the distance. Then they would return home, holding their children's hands, and the river would keep flowing beneath the stars, softly, patiently, forever. So, dear listener, as you rest tonight, remember the lesson of the river village. Not every fear is truth. Not every old custom is kindness. And sometimes, one calm and courageous heart can bring light to many people. May your night be peaceful. May your dreams be gentle. And may you always find the wisdom to see clearly, even when the world feels dark. The river flows on. The moon shines above. And you are safe now. Sleep well.